Welcome to Silk Painting with Jane Cameron. Technical series. Okay, so we're going to look at how to create an even background on silk. If you were to, for instance, wet your silk and then add your colour, it would come out blotchy because the water would congregate at the edge and the paint would pretty much stay in the middle. So you need to mix the two together. You've got two options when you're mixing. You've got either your white mixer, which is about the same consistency as your paint, or you can use water. Water can be a very good idea if you're doing a big background because it dries slower than the white mixer does. Also, it's a good idea to tailor the size of your brush to the size of the area you're painting. So this little brush, which I've used for some of my other videos, is too small. So for this size, I would probably use this size brush, and if I was doing a bigger piece, then I might use a big sponge brush. So, on to the painting. Okay, step one, take some water, pop it in your palette. And then I'm going to do my usual, which is lightest colour first, so the clear is my lightest colour, and I'm going to do it blue. And if I want a nice bright blue, then I'll mix it about 1 to 1. So the same amount of water as I've got the paint, because that will help it to run across the silk. There we go. It will obviously make it a bit lighter, but not a lot. So what we've got there, also, always make sure you've got enough, because if you run out halfway down, your leading edge will dry while you're mixing your next batch of colour. So always make sure you've got enough. So I'll do one of these with the mix with water and one of these with the colour on its own so you can see the difference. Let's start with the colour on its own. So I've washed my brush, dried my brush. In we go. Now, what I always do is start from one end. Plenty on the brush. And then I go into the bit I just painted, and now we're trying to ease it down the silk. The idea is that you want to keep your whole leading edge wet, because if part of your leading edge dries, you get a nasty, horrible line, which will never come out again. So, as you can see there, it does take a surprising amount of paint to do a background. So, I've run out. But this is good because it will show you what happens and the danger of not having enough. So, there we are. That's as far as that much paint went. Okay, so I'm going to leave that like that. But you can see that because I've painted fast, I've got a really lovely solid blue colour across there. Now, having mixed it with water, we're going to do the other side. Now you can see that spreads much faster, runs much further, but also because we mixed it with the water, it is a lighter colour, although they didn't look that different in the palette. So always check your colour on a piece of kitchen roll or on a corner of silk to make sure that it is actually the colour you want. Now this is another reason why it's a good idea to have your silk nice and tight on the frame, because as you paint, your silk relaxes slightly. It stretches slightly as it gets wet. Always make sure you've gone up to the edges to make sure that your paint is evenly distributed. Okay, good. Now, going back to look at this, you can see round these edges here, you've had a nice clean edge where it's met the outliner. Here, as it's drying, you can see this edge is starting to feather, and you're starting to get a dark line at this edge, and it's lighter there, because as it's drying here, it's pulling more and more paint towards the edge as the water evaporates out of it. So if I was to try and continue painting this background, for instance going from this side, what you will find, making sure you've gone up the corners before you continue down your silk, is that when these meet, watch what happens. At first, it starts to act a little bit like a resist, and it stops this lighter colour from moving across the silk. But that line, that dark line, even if I paint over it, is not going to go away. It's a really lovely way of doing things like hillsides and beach edges and that sort of thing, but if you do it by accident, it doesn't come out. So, I hope that's been helpful. Enjoy doing your backgrounds. Thank you for watching. Please check out my other videos and visit my website janecameron.co.uk to find out about my silk painting courses. If you have a suggestion for another video you would like to see, then please let me know on my Facebook page. Thank you for watching.